that prayer that our ancestors have prayed for to be heard is really a prayer to hear ourselves, is
Mhm.
really a prayer to be able to hear what our soul is speaking, what our womb is saying, and then showing up from that place.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
a space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together. Let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome back. You're here with Holly, and today I'm joined with Ellie Stiles to dive into the wisdom of our wombs. And I loved this conversation. If you are a woman, this episode is for you. It is so powerful, helping you reconnect to your womb's wisdom and tapping into your intuition, your creativity, and your deep inner knowing. And for the men that are listening, we welcome you obviously into this space as well. I feel like if you are a man listening, maybe this could deepen your understanding of the feminine experience, or maybe if you feel called to listen, maybe sharing it with a woman in your life. So, yeah, my deep intention for this episode is to really break down what it truly looks like to reconnect with the womb space, to educate women on the immense power and wisdom that our wombs hold, and to offer tangible ways to begin the journey of healing and reconnection with the sacred part of ourselves. Because I feel like as a collective of women, we are really reclaiming our bodies, reclaiming our power, reclaiming our voices, and coming back into our bodies through the healing journey. You know, I feel like the healing journey is the self-love journey, is the deep regulation of the nervous system. So I feel like if you're called to this podcast, I'm sure you're on your healing journey in some capacity, learning how to love yourself, coming back into your body, feeling your emotions, all of the things. So with that, naturally comes online reconnecting with your womb. So our womb is a sacred space of creation, of intuition, and of deep wisdom. It is how we bring new life into this earth. It is such a sacred portal that I feel like we do not give enough grace to. And yeah, I just really want to bring awareness to this space and know that too, it is a space that holds a lot of unprocessed pain as well, and imprints of our past, our lineage, and the shame, grief, anger, and suppression we may carry. So, these imprints shape how we view ourselves and our relationships, limiting our ability to fully embrace the power and the beauty of our womb spaces. And it can hold the grief and shame and pain of a miscarriage, of having an abortion, of past sexual trauma, of the suppression of our pleasure, just leaving us disconnected from our bodies and feeling unworthy of experiencing pleasure. So, healing the womb goes beyond just the physical. It's about reclaiming your relationship with yourself, restoring safety within yourself and within your body, and awakening the wisdom within. So, through intentional practices, you can reconnect, reclaim your power, and fully embrace the beauty of your womb space. So, in this episode, we dive into what it truly means to heal, to listen, and to come home to your womb. And Ellie and I are also going to be doing a part 2 to this episode, specifically focusing on healing the womb after having an abortion, because this is something we both feel incredibly passionate about. There's so much shame that is perpetuated onto women for having an abortion, whether it be in society, within religious beliefs, and that only deepens the wounds that so many women carry. And with the abortion bans that are going on in our world right now, it just feels like this conversation is more important than ever. So if you feel called, stay tuned for that. That'll probably be coming out in a month or so down the road. Because yeah, there's so much to cover when it comes to the womb space, but we wanted to make this episode very intentional about like how to reconnect out of if you have not experienced an abortion as well. So, also just a little side note, if you're watching, Ellie's video is a little bit blurry. The internet connection wasn't great. So, apologizing for that in advance, but the messaging is there. So, we're going to keep it. But to give you a little bit of background on Ellie, so Ellie Stiles is a medicine woman living in Peru, working with mushrooms and walking the path to serve ayahuasca. Through the exploration of our multidimensionality, something that once felt so complex, she has come home to a simple truth. We are beings of love, here to love. Her devotion is to help others remember the power of their womb, reclaim their sovereignty, and ground their divine essence into this earth. Guiding others back to their sovereignty, their heart, and the remembrance of unity is the deepest fulfillment of her purpose, which is so incredibly beautiful. We are very deeply aligned in our missions of really helping people come back to their hearts, learning how to love themselves, come more home to themselves, and see that we are all one. We are here to uplift one another, to heal together in unity and community. And yeah, I just love this conversation. So I hope you take something away. And with that, let's dive into it. Welcome, Ellie. I'm so excited to chat with you today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Holly.
Yeah. So I mentioned this a bit in the intro, but like my deep intention for this episode is to really break down what it truly looks like to reconnect with the womb space, to educate women on the immense power and wisdom of their wombs, and to offer those tangible ways to begin the journey of healing and like the reconnection with this sacred part of ourselves, specifically for women. Um, because yeah, I feel like the womb is such a powerful center of creation and intuition and deep wisdom. But along with that, it also carries like imprints of pain, of trauma, of unprocessed emotions. So I believe like reconnecting with the womb space really means acknowledging and tending to those wounds as well, whether they stem from like personal experiences, generational trauma, societal conditioning. But yeah, by diving into those past experiences with like love, with intention to create that space for healing, I feel like it's the process of like reclaiming that power, being able to restore that trust in your body, restore that trust within your womb, allowing your womb to really guide you. So, yeah, I'm excited to dive into all things womb space healing and just explore how we can begin to reconnect with these powerful sources of life, of creativity, of intuition, and just, yeah, share our own personal examples as well throughout. So, yeah, I'd love to just start by hearing more about your journey because I know that healing and reconnecting with your body, reconnecting with the womb is such an individual and sacred journey. So, yeah, I'm just curious like what has your journey of reconnecting with your womb and your body been like for you and how did you get started down this path?
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to get to share. So, thank you for offering this space to dive into the womb because it really is an infinite space. And when you tend to it, it will offer you limitless gifts and clarity and direction and alchemy. And let's first start. I'll definitely share my story, but I first want to
Mhm,
just give a visual for everybody that your womb is a garden. So
mhm,
if you think of your womb as a garden, a library of records, if you never tend to your garden, it will overgrow with weeds or it will be full of things that are dying, perhaps, that are old, that are not serving you. And so if you think of this space in your body as something that needs to be nurtured and tended to, it also brings you to, well, what's been here if I've never tended to it before? What's in my womb if I've never paid attention to it before? So if you're here today and you're like, I have never paid attention to my womb, you're not alone. We
mhm,
all reunite with our womb in this life, or that
mhm,
is the hope, and that is one of my intentions in walking in this path right now is to help women return back to their womb space. But wherever you are in your womb journey, first starting, perhaps you've spent time with her before, um, your womb welcomes you wherever you are, however you're showing up. I went through an abortion when I was 19, actually two within 6 months.
mhm,
And that was really a doorway for me to seek within myself something to nurture myself during that time because I grew up Catholic and I was like, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to seek guidance on how to help myself heal through this process. I don't know what I'm allowed to feel, what I'm not allowed to feel. And so that was really my doorway and entrance into I have to go inside. I have to go inside of my own body, inside of my own experience to find solace, really, and healing.
Mhm.
And so that was my journey in. That was really the beginning in of wanting to connect to something within myself that I knew only I could connect to and that wasn't going to sit outside of myself.
Mhm.
So, further along my journey, I started going deeper into chakras and my energy and trauma and all the things, and I started unfolding, and then I started working with mushrooms.
Mhm.
And the mushrooms started to help me unravel kind of the locks on my body. They were really little keys that helped me kind of take off layer by layer by layer. And then as I
Mhm.
started to take off layer by layer, I was like, wow, there's a lot that I'm holding on inside of my body. And my journey with plant medicine just began to deepen. I'm now living in Peru and working with ayahuasca. And that's been
Mhm.
such a potent, potent plant ally for deepening my relationship with my womb. Um, but I would say too, I really sat in the wellness space and was putting a lot of energy and intention into what am I putting into my body? How am I moving my body? But I was not paying attention to my womb. I wasn't asking like what's in here? What's emotionally sitting in here? Yeah, I'm prioritizing like what am I feeding myself? How am I moving? Am I getting my exercise in? Am I taking these supplements? Are my minerals up?
Mhm.
That's all great. And we really want to give that nourishment and attention and presence to our body. And then we want to go deeper into the roots of the trees. Like, what are we just giving ourselves things because we think that we need to? Are we walking 10,000 steps a day because someone said so and that's the proper thing to do? Your
Mhm.
womb is about your library of wisdom. It's not about the trends of health, what you should be doing for your body, what you should be doing for your mindfulness to stay balanced. Your womb is a library of records, and it just goes so much, so much, so much deeper. It's the center of creation. So when you think of your womb as your own personal library, it has your own personal wisdom specific to you. And it's not only this library of how to nurture your body, but it's the seat of creation. It's where life is conceived, it's where life is nurtured, it's where life comes in and through. Um, and so when we think about that from a creative standpoint, we are always birthing something through our womb space. And I
Mhm.
want to back that up and say we're not always actually in the birthing process, but we are always holding the potential for life and to create something, a timeline, a reality, an idea, a song, a any expression of who you are. And it's also
Mhm.
really your womb is your authentic code. So you come in with your own blueprint, with your authentic blueprint, and the beautiful gift of feminine wisdom and being in the feminine is we don't use manuals. And so when we are operating from a space of I'm listening to everything outside of myself and this is how I'm showing up, which is a lot of how I was spending the last 7 years of my life before working with my womb was like, what
Mhm.
should I be doing? How should I be living? How should I be taking care of my body? Google searching, what herb do I need for this? Instead of, hello, I have a source right here that can tell me everything and that can help me
Mhm.
alchemize anything. So yeah, I'm now in Peru going deeper into this work, and I would say too, the womb space is your pathway into liberation. And
Mhm.
our liberation is really just the embodiment of who we came here to be. And when we clear out all the things that are in here that are not in alignment with our highest expression of self, when we clear out, we
Mhm.
make space, it's this fertile, 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 fertile garden of
Mhm.
infinite creativity and expression to allow ourselves to just be free in who we are.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing all of that. Yeah. I feel like too, this kind of happens, I think, on the healing journey. Cause I feel like a lot of women, especially that are called to this podcast, are like on their healing journeys because I think it's like coming back into your body, realizing the innate wisdom of your body. Cause I think so many of us are so disconnected from our bodies, so dissociated from our bodies from past painful experiences, or so much of our self-worth as women is placed on how we look. So many of us have done unhealthy things, like healthy things to attain a certain body type, whether we're like over exercising, under eating, getting all of these supplements, going on diets, like disconnecting us from our body's innate wisdom, which again, like our bodies, our wombs, it's like reconnecting to these beautiful, powerful vessels of ours. And I feel like it comes more online as you learn to, one, yes, like take care of yourself, do those basic things of like, nourishing your body, getting in water, getting in movement, that kind of stuff to create that safety for your body. And then like diving deeper into, okay, what is my body holding? Like, what am I carrying? And I think like the deep processing of these like past painful experiences to help kind of reconnect in a deeper way. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, and you brought up a really
Yeah.
important word when it comes to the womb, and it's safety. The
Yeah.
feminine cannot open until we feel safe in our bodies.
Hmm.
And the womb
Yeah.
holds a lot of fear. If we haven't worked with it, we haven't worked with the energies there. And when we're holding on to fear, shame, guilt, unworthiness in the womb space, what do our bodies want to do? They want to close, they want to
Hmm.
contract, they also want to
Hmm.
tighten. And when we think about tightening and closing, and oftentimes too, we'll physically close our body, physically close our hips. So something very tangible that everyone listening can do right now while you're listening to this podcast is lay down on your back and open your hips.
Hmm.
Signal to your own body, signal to the ethers, I'm open. I'm open. And
Hmm.
notice what comes up in the body as you open. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
it's important that you brought up safety because the feminine has, for lifetimes, not been safe. And especially
Yeah.
in the space of like connecting with our womb,
Hmm.
because it's a portal of so much alchemy and magic and gifts. There are so many of our feminine bodies in this lifetime carrying around the fear of not being able to be connected to that mystery, connected to that magic.
Hmm.
So that's another little entrance and pathway. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I think we're hitting on a really good point too, because I feel like a lot of women specifically, and like people in general, like we just don't feel safe in our bodies. Like a lot of people don't feel safe in our bodies. We live in a society that is so fast paced, go, 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 go. These societal pressures, these societal, like that's why anxiety, depression, mental health, we are in a mental health crisis. Like people are so disconnected and dissociated from their bodies for so many reasons, but a lot of us do not even feel safe in our bodies. And I think until we can start to learn how to create that safety within the body, start to, come back into the body, do those deep belly breaths to signal to your body, to your nervous system that you're safe, like create that safety within the nervous system, which I believe that's what the healing journey is. It's like the deep regulation of the nervous system, the coming home to your heart, coming home to your wholeness, learning how to love yourself, creating that safety for yourself. So then you can feel safe enough to like listen, be able to like intuitively listen to your body and give it what it needs moment by moment instead of living by rigid rules and regulations. And then like feeling safe enough to reconnect to your womb space and see the beauty of your body. I feel so many of us women specifically are even like at war with our bodies, like like hating these bodies. And I think something that on my journey that I've really learned is like, because I used to have an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, all of that. And it's like on my journey of learning how to love myself and come back home to myself and my body, it's like, oh my God, I have so much appreciation for this body of mine that's constantly trying to keep me safe, constantly trying to protect me. And like seeing all of the abuse that I put it through for so many years and just how negatively I spoke to it. And I think just as a collective of women, that's something that a lot of us struggle with. And I think it's like rewiring that relationship with your body and looking at this beautiful womb space, this portal that is within your body of like, this is how we bring in life into this earth. Like without us, there would be no life here. Like our wombs are so sacred, our bodies are so sacred. And I feel like it's this deep coming home to your true essence, to your body, and having that deep appreciation. Yeah, it feels like there's so much about like this, the whole rewiring, the whole coming home to self of like really learning how to come back into your body and love your body, which I think collectively women are doing. Like I feel like a lot of women collectively are reclaiming their body, claiming their power, reclaiming their voices. But it's definitely a journey, you know, it's like definitely something that takes intention and time and energy and like a complete rewiring, you know? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, I kind of want to dive into maybe like some common energetic, emotional, and physical blocks that prevent us from fully connecting to our womb space, and like how can we start to invite our pain in and hold space for it, because I feel like a lot of women consciously or subconsciously hold on to shame, to anger, to grief, to fear in the womb space. And, you know, not all of it is just ours. I feel like it's generational, because I know for me specifically, I had a ceremony around my womb and we're carrying generational shame, sexual repression, all of that. But also it can stem from past sexual experiences that like, or relationships that you have had that maybe you're not proud of. I know I've had to do a lot of processing around that. And then like if you've had an abortion, like I know you shared you had an abortion, and we're going to do a whole second part, a second podcast episode, second part on diving into how to heal and reconnect with the womb after having an abortion, because I know we both feel very passionate about that. But I feel like that kind of experience, like we can be carrying shame that we may not even be conscious of because of the societal pressures, because of religious induced beliefs. And then also like there can be grief if you've had a miscarriage, maybe unknowingly, or like unresolved sexual abuse, sexual assault, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just want to really dive into like things that our womb space may be holding that we may not be aware of, and how can we start to, yeah, like hold space for it and heal with that.
Hmm. No, it's so beautiful that you bring this up because we want to name what could be here.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about a mental health crisis, so many of us that have experienced anxiety, depression, or a constant state of unworthiness, insecurity, it usually is not just what's happening in the present, it's what's happening in your womb and what hasn't been tended to or cleared. And when we talk about the womb and generations, we're talking 15 generations down the line in your womb
Mm-hmm.
space. So unless unless the women in your familial line were doing womb work throughout the whole lineup, you've got something in there
Mm-hmm.
that isn't your fault, but is your responsibility to heal and to clear. Um, so let's talk about the number one is guilt. Guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes as far back as once upon a time Eve bit the apple, the feminine, it was her fault. Shame, 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 shame.
Mm-hmm.
Way, way, way back to the distortion that pleasure is sinful. And when we go before that time of when whoever established that, um, we go into actually the alchemy and the power that was harvested from a woman's pleasure, and it was revered. And the Egyptian goddesses were in pleasure all day long, and they were
Mhm.
resting and they were being fed, and they were in their sex alchemy, rooted in such deep beauty and pleasure, um, for the purpose of holding and magnetizing a vibration that was actually healing and creating the earth in such a way that was vibrationally harmonious and peaceful. So our pleasure and our desires are connected to harmony and peace in
Mhm.
actually a balanced state of internally and on our earth. And our pleasure has a lot to do with our vitality. So I would love to put the question in right now to anyone listening, like, are you connected to your pleasure?
Mhm.
And when I talk about pleasure, when you hear the word pleasure, when you hear the word self pleasure, do you get like, ugh, like I get when you hear
Mhm.
the concept of touching yourself or pleasuring yourself, does that bring up like an icky feeling in your body? And we
Mhm.
want to go deeper into the question of like, why? Like, this is
Mhm.
my body. So, guilt is one, that's a big root.
That's huge, though.
Shame.
I really wanna dive into just real
Yeah.
quick while you're talking about that. I think that's so huge. And, both of us growing up Catholic, not that the Catholic Church is all bad, but I feel like there was this deep teaching of like safe sex for marriage and, like you do not just like no talk around sex. Like I know specifically in my family, we just really didn't talk about sex. And, I love my mom, my dad, they did the best they could with the tools that they had, but sex just wasn't really a part of the conversation. So like I myself, even at this age, I find myself feeling like unworthy or uncomfortable with self pleasure.
Uh-huh.
But what I've come to know and understand is like women, we are meant to be exactly what you just said. We are meant to be connected to our pleasure. Our pleasure is so deeply connected with our creativity and feeling abundant and feeling connected to our unconditional love, to our hearts. Like there is no shame in pleasure. And I think that's something with these next generations coming in, like really having these open conversations around sex and how it is not dirty and it's a natural part of life and you're meant to, experience pleasure. And I feel like the conversation around pleasure needs to really shift. And I think we are becoming aware of that, and
Mhm.
helping spread those messages. Cause I think, yeah, there's so much shame and guilt around just even thinking of pleasure and sex, and it feels dirty and gross. It's become so taboo, and it's like, no, this is a beautiful natural part of life, and like the rewiring of that. um I just wanted to touch on that because I think that's so deeply ingrained.
It's huge, and it's also so deeply tied to the lack of safety in our bodies. So if you're
Mm,
holding on to fear, abuse, which are other things that can be stored in the womb. So we have guilt, we have shame, we have fear, we have grief, anger. When we don't feel safe in our own bodies, how can we open and experience pleasure? And to experience the height of our orgasm and our pleasure, we have to be open. Because when
mhm,
we're actually clenching our muscles and we're contracted, we cannot reach the climax of our pleasure.
mhm. Right.
And so when we kind of untether all these different little threads, a really big, we'll call it a little storage unit in the womb, is the lack of safety around men because of
Mhm.
the abuse and specifically tied to sexual abuse
Right.
that generations have experienced. So if you think about, okay, did anyone in my family, did I experience sexual abuse? Likely, most people have in some
Mhm,
format. Doesn't always
mhm,
have to be physical, too. I want to say that. It can be energetic, it can be felt emotionally,
mhm,
and that can create a sense of unsafety in the body. But if you had an experience of unsafety sexually with someone else, the body doesn't go to, it was their body that's unsafe. It goes, my body's unsafe. So now I can't even connect to my own body because that wasn't safe. Now my body isn't safe. Now I can't even touch my own body. So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many layers to work through. Um, they're all interconnected. I haven't found
Right.
one emotion in my womb where the other one didn't pop up later, you know? They're all so
Yeah.
deeply threaded together. I would say the access point in, if you've never touched your womb or worked with your womb, to start to access those emotions stored is to go in so gently without expectation and with complete compassion and love and without force, as if you are a mother tending to a child. And so
Mhm.
when you think about these emotions stored in the body, sure, shame, guilt, fear might be right there for you to like pick at and be like, there it is. But oftentimes women will experience, I can't connect to my womb. I can't hear her. I can't talk to her. I don't know what's happening. I don't see anything. Nothing's happening because she's not opening yet.
Mhm.
So a big piece of this path into opening and deepening with your womb is patience. The feminine opens with space
Mhm.
and time. And even when we feel like the pace, like right now as I'm speaking, like the pace to slow down, the lack of expectation, the freedom to open when it wants to, if it wants to, we already feel like a, okay, so it doesn't, this womb healing doesn't have to look a certain way. No.
Mhm. Yeah, there's no
We
right
need
way.
that freedom.
Yeah. And something I want to say too is like you don't have to do it alone. Like if you feel called to go to a somatic therapist too, to like, or like do more somatic work or something that's been so supportive for me that I know has been supportive for you, as you mentioned, is like plant medicine has been a beautiful way to like access those deep seated emotions and help me feel safe to feel or to bring up a memory that I may have suppressed like in a sacred, safe container with that deep intention to heal. But I feel like a lot of the times, yeah, we feel it's like, where do I even begin? And it's like, it just starts with like anything that's coming up for you that you maybe feel shame or pain or anger or grief around. It's like getting curious and inviting it in and not like shaming yourself and trying to avoid, because I think so many of us try to avoid uncomfortable experiences or uncomfortable thoughts that come up. But it's like if there's a memory that's surfacing for you that is something around like your sexuality or something along those lines, it's like instead of immediately trying to run from it, it's like getting curious about it. What is that trying to reveal to you? Is there something that wants to be processed? Because that's where I feel like our guides, our spirit guides, our guardian angels are always trying to guide us on the path of healing. So it's like whenever a memory is surfacing for you that feels a bit uncomfortable around your body, around sex, around whatever it may be, it's like kind of inviting that in instead of pushing it away. And maybe, yes, like getting support, going to like, if you want to go to a somatic therapist or something like that. Cause yeah, I feel like it can be really hard to sit in those emotions. And yeah, just sometimes you don't, obviously like it's your own personal journey, but you don't always have to be in that space alone.
Oh. And I think too, when you talk about processing what's in here, I think we can associate that word processing with thinking and cognizing. And
Mm-hmm.
the womb is the great mystery. So
Mm-hmm.
when you are working with these layers, I really encourage you to leave behind the need to understand every single thing that is being processed and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, getting to a root can feel clarifying and relieving when we can be like, that's where it came from. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that we're not going to get to the root every single
Mm-hmm.
time. And if we're
Mm-hmm.
attached to, I have to figure out what the root is to heal, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out everything that's in here to heal, we're in the mind space. And for the feminine and working with the womb, we want to get into the body. So even as you're working with your womb and connecting with her, drop out of mind and imagine your awareness sinking down like sand and just feel. Sometimes I'll lay next to my altar and I really want to cognize something. Like, I really want to be like, what am I feeling right now? This is so painful and like uncomfortable. And I'll start to try
Mm-hmm.
to think like, Was it this moment? Was it this, person I dated? Was it this moment in childhood? And that never
Mhm.
works until
Mhm.
I surrender the thinking pattern and I drop into my body and I just let the body feel. You just let the body
Mhm.
feel. So
Right.
instead of like, I have to think my way through this, you're going to feel your way through
Mhm.
this without needing to
Yeah.
understand everything.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And I feel like anytime we are like, obviously, like our minds are like they want to intellectualize things, we want to understand things. But I think anytime I invite you, if you are stuck in the mind and trying to figure something out, it's like taking those deep belly breaths to like actually signal to your body, signal to your nervous system that you're safe so you can actually drop into the body and then just allow yourself to feel what it is that you need to feel. Like sometimes when you're crying, like I know I've had so many like anger rituals, crying sessions where it's like I actually don't even know why I'm crying or why I feel angry, but I'm just allowing myself to feel it because this energy and this emotion wants to move through me right now, and I'm going to let it move through me with no judgment. And I think there's a space of like holding space for your emotions with with the lens of non-judgment and compassion too, because I think when we are accessing these, like when we are feeling, there can be judgment that comes up of like why am I crying, why am I feeling this way. It's like just holding space for it and inviting it in and allowing yourself to just feel what you need to feel with no judgment. And I think like if there are thoughts, it's like coaching yourself through it in that nurturing way, as like you said, tending to a child. It's like actually like speaking to yourself like you would speak to a child of, it's safe for you to cry, it's safe for you to feel this, it's safe for you to get this out, it's safe for you to get angry, express how you're feeling, and just like being your own like nurturing energy to yourself, like your own nurturing coach during those times too. I feel like that's what's been supportive for me, at least when I'm like really diving into some emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Be your own
And I
mama.
think yeah, it's so interesting too, which I didn't think of this, but I was talking to this woman who I love so much, and she went to a sound healing session. And the woman came up to her afterwards and um, she's like, I was just tuning into your energy and I'm feeling like a lot of like grief in your womb space. And she had had a miscarriage and she didn't realize
Mhm.
that she was carrying around that grief from her miscarriage. So I'm curious, like, yeah, it's like how I feel like there's so many unconscious things that our womb is holding on to, again, that we're just like not even aware of. So yeah,
Mhm.
I guess just like diving into like, okay, even if we're not consciously aware of it, how can we still reconnect and like, yeah, like hold space for those
Mhm.
things? Yeah.
Yeah, a really simple practice to start to connect with the womb, to feel what's in there, to start to alchemize and move the energy is to visualize the womb as a body of water. This is my favorite visualization for the womb space.
Ooh, I have
And
chills. I love that.
I really encourage you not to be like, I have to go into a deep meditation. I have to like silence everything. I just encourage you to be present with your womb. That's it. Just be present
Mhm.
with your womb. That's all it needs to start to open, move, activate, shift. So you're gonna visualize your womb as a body of water. And I like to also visualize, and I have a couple of these visuals in my womb meditations that everyone has access to, but I envision a little staircase to like start to like actually go down into the womb space. And then
Mhm.
you want to check the weather of your womb. This is a really good way to be like, what is active? What is my womb creating from? And you'll notice maybe there's some waves, maybe it's stormy, maybe the water is really dirty. I've had a lot of women be like, when I go into my womb and look at the water, it's black. And I'm like,
Mm.
good. That's a good starting point. You're
Mhm.
seeing something. Even if it's blackness, you're seeing something. Um, and so you start to check in with your womb every day or, as often as you feel pulled to in the beginning, and you start to just check in with the weather of the womb. And then the next step for this is start to explore your womb as the body of water directionally. So go to the right side. Do you see anything there? Do you feel a color? Do you feel a sensation? Are there memories popping up? Are there symbols? Are there different colors? Go over to the left side. Is there anything there? You'll find that the emotions are stored in very specific little places.
Mm.
Um, and I want to emphasize too, as soon as you bring attention to your womb, she starts to work. That
Mm.
is all it takes. So you don't have to be thinking, okay, I feel something on my right side. I think it's fear. I don't know what it is. Um, and now, okay, what do I do with it? You don't have to cognize it. You just have to feel it. And you just be with it and you be with it and you be with it. Perhaps you go back into that same spot the next week or for 2 months if it takes you. Just keep going back until you start to see the water shift and the weather shift. And it will.
Mhm.
You will see it
Mhm.
shift. Um, and another practice that's really, really, really helpful is when you go into the womb and you can envision it as a body of water. I like to work with the rose, the blue rose or the red rose. You bring a rose to the center and you sit in it. So you just go into your room, visualize yourself sitting in the middle of the rose, and then you're going to bring all versions of self in a circle around you. So it's like you're sitting in like a circle in preschool, you know, and there's all the different versions of you. And you just ask, does anyone here have something to say or share? And you'll see maybe 5-year-old you raise its hand or
Mhm.
13-year-old you raise its hand. And you just start to ask questions. Is there something you want to say? Is there something you're feeling? Is there something you want to show me? Just be curious. And this is where the moment you bring the presence and curiosity to your womb, boom, something shows up. Boom, something shows up. And again, the womb is the infinite. It's the void. It's the all. It's the portal of all creation. So the womb connection that you're in that moment might not reveal all the alchemy just in that moment. You might have a connection point 6 months later, or later in the day, you might have a big cry, and you're like, where did this come from?
Mhm.
Well, your womb's opening and releasing. So also let go of the linear timeline of healing. Let go of
Mhm.
it needing to make sense step to step to step because the
Mhm.
womb doesn't make sense. The womb is a mystery.
Mhm.
It's not going to be like boom, 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 boom. You're like, did I
Mhm.
really see that? Did I really feel that? Did that really happen? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What
Mhm.
matters is that you're being present with its mystery, with whatever is in here, and you just work with it moment to moment to moment. Um, yeah, does that help as a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
entrance?
I love all of that so much, and I love that we're inviting in all parts because I think a lot of the fear, the shame, the pain, the guilt, all of this is oftentimes stemming from younger parts of us, past experiences where, we felt shame around something or whatever it may be. So I love that you said like inviting them all into the circle because I think, yeah, I'm so passionate about inner child and inner teenage work because those parts are very much alive within us, and I feel like they're the window into so much of what's kind of like holding us back today, and they just need to be nurtured, and they need to have space to just be heard and to be seen and to be validated. And I feel like when you can do that, when you can be that adult figure, that nurturing loving energy that they needed in those moments when they were younger that they never had, and like understand where they are coming from, like that's like the integration of these younger parts of you and allows for just a deep seated healing. So yeah, I just love that you incorporated bringing in the inner children, like the younger parts, because I think that's so much a part of the healing journey, is like reconnecting to these younger parts and loving them through it.
Yeah, and if you also think about the younger parts of you before they experienced trauma or distortion, they hold your authentic code because
Yeah.
younger you wasn't thinking like, do they, at least at the very, very youngest that we can,
Mhm.
connect with before things happen, we have experiences in life.
Mhm.
It's your pure authentic code. So of
Yeah.
course they have the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's the part of the healing is like bringing back that childlike joy and play. Like, who were you before all these painful experiences happened? Like, what was your true essence, and how can you start to invite her back in,
Mhm.
and do the things that you used to love, like add in that childlike joy and play again? Because, like, a part of being in the feminine energy, it's like bringing in that play, bringing in that joy, that pleasure, that which elicits like creativity and all of that. So I feel like so much a part of reconnecting to that youthful joy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think when we think about that, a lot of people ask how, like, how do we
Mhm.
connect back to our childlike joy and our authentic code? And
Mhm.
yes, the womb, but the other piece of this is all of the distractions that
Mhm.
either fill our essence or that we try to strip our essence of and make things go away. So
Mhm.
when you think about your pure authentic code internally, who are you without social media? Who are you without talking to the people in your life? Who are you without sound? Who are you without birth control? Or and this is not a shaming birth control. This is just
Mhm.
when we strip down to your
Mhm.
essence. Who are you without all
Mhm.
of the noise? And
Mhm.
most of us don't know what
Right.
that's like because there is so much distraction and so much noise. So another invitation is like to get to that point of, yeah, like this childlike awe and wonder and creativity because truly your womb will gift you endlessly, endlessly. You are a creator by nature. So if
Mhm.
you're not creating, and I don't mean like you don't have to paint like a gallery and like
Mhm. Yep.
make create an album. But if you're
Mhm.
not creating in some capacity, you are likely unfulfilled, not connected to joy, um,
Mhm.
and not connected to your essence. So
Mhm.
stripping away all of the distractions. So the question that you can just sit with and bring into your journal practice or sit with it tonight or even ask your dream space, which is a really beautiful way to ask for clarity when you're working with your womb and you're wanting to just get more solid clear answers from your soul is asking before you go to bed and allowing your dream state to reveal the answer.
Mhm.
But is what are the distractions? What are the
Mhm.
distractions that are keeping me from being connected to my essence? And
Mhm.
it's a lot of the things are similar for all of us and a lot of things are different. So it's just a question to explore.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because I think that was huge for me when I started my healing journey, which I didn't even know I was on, of like learning how to love myself, come home to myself. It's like I really started to see how much external validation I was needing and how I was living my life so deeply just in what looked right on paper, like getting married, buying the house, having the kids, all the just like what society perpetuates is successful. And when I really looked at that, I was like, that doesn't feel true for me. Like, yes, I just got married, but I don't feel called to buy a house. I feel called to go move to California. Like, I started really looking at my life and stop needing so much external validation and starting to come home to myself of like what actually feels true for me. And that was a big piece of like needing to kind of like take a step away from social media, spending more time in nature, in meditation, in practices that helped me connect more deeply with myself. Cause I think, yeah, so many of us are living our lives based on what we think it should look like and just disconnected from our true essence. But our lives are not all meant to look the same. And I feel like we're all here to do our own unique, beautiful things. There's no one right way to live your life. And I think when you really start to be honest with yourself, like, is the life you're living for you or is it for other people? And what is actually going to bring in that joy for you? How can you start living your life for you and stop caring so much about like what other people think or what it looks like on paper? That was huge for me to just like need to let go of like what other people were thinking. And yeah, reconnecting with the things that bring you joy. The greatest way to start connecting, I feel like, with that inner child is like actually doing things when you were younger. Like what elicited that joy? Like dancing, maybe just like dancing to music or like cooking or roller skating or singing, whatever it may be. It's like bringing back those things to like help that younger part of you start feeling safe to like reveal herself again. Because I think, yeah, we just get so caught up on in the need of our lives to look a certain way. And it's just disconnecting us from like our truth, our authenticity. So I love that you brought that up. I think that's beautiful. Yeah. We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. Yeah. And I want to dive into, because I want to dive into like the ancestral trauma, ancestral
Mhm.
healing to take place within the womb too, because
Mhm.
I know the womb holds our personal stories. And then you mentioned it's like, did you say 15 generations? Is that
Mhm.
right? Which
Mhm.
is wild to think about. Like so wild to think about. Oh my God. Um, but yeah, I want to talk about maybe like how we can start connecting, like healing those generational wounds. Because just to share a personal example real quick, before I went into an ayahuasca ceremony, I had one of my friends lead me through an embodiment practice, and it took me to my womb space. And just like you said, I had my hands on my womb space and I was connecting like what was the color, like what did it feel like in there, and it was like this deep seated purple color, and it just felt like so much sexual shame. And the memory that was coming to mind was my first time that I had sex, like my first sexual experience when I was younger. And it was just like, I didn't even realize I was holding so much shame around that experience because, again, I grew up Catholic. I thought that when I had sex, I had sinned, and it just like I was not. It was not a good experience. It was very quick. It was not what I thought it was going to be. It was just like not with love. Just I didn't enjoy that experience. So I was actually really surprised that that memory came up because I thought that I had already like processed that. But yeah. So I was diving into my own sexual shame around that experience because it wasn't pleasurable either. And then what was coming through was like, oh, this is not just my shame. There's such a deep sexual shame in my womb space for my ancestors, for the past generations too. Like it's such a deep suppressed shame around sex and being connected to pleasure and my body. And like it didn't start with me, it didn't start with us. It's like
Mhm.
so deeply rooted.
Mhm.
um and when I went into that ceremony, that's when I actually, I've shared this before on the podcast, but in that ceremony, I was in pleasure for 4 hours. Like the medicine literally made me, I was in
Yes.
pleasure for 4 hours. And ayahuasca was showing me like, we are meant to be in pleasure. Pleasure is
Mhm.
beautiful. This is your birthright. When you are connected to pleasure, you are connected to unconditional love, to your creativity. Like there is no shame in being in pleasure. Like let yourself have this, let know that you are worthy of this. Like how can we like live in this, like not necessarily that we need to be living in our pleasure, but like connected to pleasure. And I know for me, I feel like a deep part of me healing is allowing myself to be in pleasure and know that I am worthy of pleasure. And that's a journey that I'm on of like allowing myself to like have be in pleasure with not feeling guilt around it. And I know every time I'm connected to my body, to my sensual sexual energy, I am liberating a piece of my ancestors as well. And like reclaiming that power for all of us is like what I feel.
I
Um
love this.
Y Yes, like, hell yes, ladies, we're doing it. We're reclaiming it. I just, like, feel so much, like, love when I'm dancing, like, when I'm in, like, my sensual flow, it's like, "Hell yes, sister," like, so, like, let's reclaim this together. So yeah, I just wanna talk about, like, yeah, how can we start from your experience, like,
Mhm.
really diving into these generational wounds and the healing around that space too?
Yeah, it's huge. And what I would say is you don't have to separate your traumas and your experiences. We
Mhm.
can put it into generational because what we carry generationally, we experience we experience further mirrors of that in this life.
Mm.
So they're just
Yeah.
reiterations of that generational trauma, and then we have that in this life. But I'll share a couple of
Mm.
personal stories, and then I'll kind of tie in the blueprint of helping you identify maybe the biggest theme, if you will, in your
Mhm.
blueprint, which is
Mhm.
actually your key code in. So this is actually exciting to dive into your generational trauma and ancestral things that you're carrying inside your womb is exciting because you
Mhm.
get to see your doorway to your liberation because that's what it is.
Mhm.
So when I was it was maybe my second ayahuasca ceremony, and I saw the line of my mother's the women in my mother's family down behind me, which is a lot of people experience this vision of like all these women behind them lined up, and
Mhm.
they were like poking on my shoulder, and it was at the time where it was clicking for me that I was going to devote my path to ayahuasca and live in Peru and work with the medicine. And all the women down the line were like, don't disappoint us, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, be a good girl, stay on the straight and narrow, da, 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 da. Just all these voices of like tugging me away from my path. And I remember turning around, I physically turned around in that ceremony. I was like, no, I'm choosing this. And then they all freed behind me. So there was a big
Mm.
key code of the fear of disappointing someone, which I've witnessed in my familial line. Another big code that I experienced, and again with the help of ayahuasca, these plant allies are so powerful,
Mhm.
um, was a lot of anger, a
Mm.
lot of anger. And I was sitting with the medicine just this past weekend alone in my backyard around the fire, and I was just like teeth out, like just like wild woman, like
Mm.
anger, 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 anger of being silenced, of being touched, of being abused.
Mhm.
And I personally didn't experience I I had 2 traumatically sexual experiences in this lifetime. Um, but it wasn't like the biggest theme. It wasn't the biggest theme in my path. But it was a part of it. But these plants have showed me more so the collective feminine. And what I would
Mhm.
say is like we're all in this together. So like
Yeah.
we're all the more that you free yourself, you free your sister and you
Mhm.
free your mother and you free your aunt and you free your best friend. And we're in this journey together. And every
Mhm.
time if you think about our collective consciousness as a ball, every time we pick these red pins out of it and we heal it, we heal a piece of this anger, a piece of the shame, we gift the other women in this world who maybe don't have access to even the time or freedom to be able to pay attention to these things.
Mhm.
Um, and there really is a gift that those listening to this podcast likely and you and I, Holly, too, and so many of our friends doing this work, like it's a gift because we're gifting so many other women that don't have the capacity, time, resources, awareness to be able to get into this space.
Mhm.
And so we're all in this together. So
Mhm.
back to our blueprint. I want you to think about, and let me start with this. My biggest key code was feeling insecure about my body and body dysmorphia and eating disorders.
Mhm.
That was highlighted from the time I was 8 years old. I thought I was overweight. I thought that I was in a different body. The body dysmorphia started really young,
Mhm.
and it continued, you know, up until last year.
Mhm.
It's taken so much deep work to unwind, but
Right.
there's a key code in what is presenting itself the strongest and what is the most present in your life. So you can use the word block, shadow. What is in your pathway right now, in your experience, that brings up the most uncomfort or dis-ease in your is it shame, is it guilt, is it fear, are you scared of something, are you a people pleaser, are you disconnected from your body, is it food, is it, you know, wherever your little block is that you're like, it's this always shows up, that is actually what you want to go directly into. Because
Mhm.
when we tie this together, and I'll just show you my thread, my body was my biggest block. And I was at war with my body, like many,
Mhm.
many of us experience.
Mhm.
And because that was my biggest block, it was the biggest signal that, oh, wait, my body has the codes. And now that
Right.
I'm in this space of, okay, I'm working with my womb, the entire time my block was showing me the pathway in that was the body. Because I think when we experience something that's difficult, that's showing up repeatedly in patterns, another one is abandonment. Will touch on that briefly too, because that's a huge one for women. Um, we want to run away from it and we want to like clear it and never look at it again.
Mhm.
But let's think about this body dysmorphia. Okay, I want to heal my body dysmorphia. It requires you to not turn away from your body, to
Mhm.
not give attention to your body, because sometimes we can interpret it as like too much attention on my body. Actually, we're being paved to, the codes are in our bodies. It's just how we're viewing it. It's the lens that we've been conditioned to see it. It's all the conditioning. That's what we need to rip apart, but the body's not the problem. The attention on the body is not the problem. It's
Mhm.
it's the kind of attention, the expectations, the conditioning. So we're going to loop this back to coming back to the question of what is most present in your sphere right now. And you can usually pinpoint a word, a thought pattern, something that maybe shows up in your relationships continuously. And that is your doorway in. And then what I would say from there, so if you can name it, doesn't have to be the thing, but if you can name something around it, what does it feel like? Does it look like something? Are there words that come up? Are there memories? That's where you want to go in because that's where the liberation is. And then we can also help identify the generational trauma by the energy centers. So, yes, the womb holds all the records of our experiences, and then the the previous generations, their records. So when you think about your womb as a library and you're like, okay, here's all these different records of what has happened, what I've experienced, what my grandmothers have experienced, what this body has experienced, what is alive. And then you'll see that there are connection points. For example, throat chakra. Do you feel confident speaking up? Do you feel confident asking for what you need? Do you feel confident and comfortable expressing something that isn't conventional? Then we go into heart. Have you experienced abandonment, rejection, heart work?
Mhm.
Have you experienced stagnation, unworthiness, father wounding, solar plexus? So, when you can start to kind of go into the pathway, you can ask your womb to show you where that's showing up the most in your body. And then the other little beautiful piece of this is the gifts that you come into this life with, which are your authentic code, what you're here to express, what you're here to to be in your essence fully. There's a chakra that will hold a really, really potent key for you. And I would say for many, many, many women right now in this current period, like March month 2025, a lot of throat chakra energy
Mm.
happening.
I was gonna say that too,
We're
yeah.
like,
Mhm.
like ready to
Yes.
open, ready to
Mhm.
speak. And
Mhm.
here's the key difference between like when we're healing the feminine and our truth and throat chakra and when we're using it in a wounded way. When
Mhm.
we're wounded, we say it because we feel like we have to, or we
Mhm.
say it out of spite because we finally can and we never had the opportunity. So now we're just spitting out things because, you know, F you and F this and da 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 da.
Mhm.
There's still wounding there when it's coming from, I get to, so I'm just going to say it and I'm going to just blast it everywhere instead of let me find liberation within myself first, in the privacy of my own space, in the privacy of my own heart, in the privacy of my own essence. Can I liberate myself there first? Because then you don't feel a need to liberate and prove yourself in front of
Mhm.
others. It then
Mhm.
just becomes a natural flow of your expression, of something comes through and you share it because it's just a part of your authentic code, not because you're trying
Mhm.
to prove a point, or not
Right.
because you're trying to be like, well, my feminine has risen and now I'm in my power. Like, that is still coming from a place of I have not been heard. So I
Mhm.
think another beautiful question to ask yourself in this moment is like, have I heard myself?
Mhm.
Because that's often what we're seeking. And generationally speaking, we're talking about generational ancestral patterns. That prayer that our ancestors have prayed for, to be heard, is really a prayer to hear ourselves, is
Mhm.
really a prayer to be able to hear what our soul is speaking, what our womb is saying, and then showing up from that place.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. I feel like collectively, really, women are reclaiming our voices, reclaiming our power because I think they've been suppressed for years and generations, but I think that's such a beautiful thing to decipher. Are you still speaking from a wounded place of like, hear me, listen to me, this is, or is it coming from a grounded space of this is my truth and this is how I feel and I'm going to speak it because I know I'm liberating a piece of me and I feel like someone else may need to hear it as well, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, and I think too, a generational pattern that I feel like I just want to speak on too, specifically for the women in my life, but I feel like this is very um generational as well, which I know you mentioned the one of disappointment. I feel like there was a deep one of this need to be perfect, this need to look
Oh,
perfect, be perfect, perceive perfect in order to be worthy of love. And that was a huge one that I know has is so deep within my family lineage, specifically on my mom's side, like on the women's side. And it's like every time I embrace my messiness, every time I speak from my heart and not from my head, when I do something for me that doesn't necessarily make sense, like that's liberating a piece of like this need to be perfect. And I know even with just an example of this, like before I probably never would have spoken about me doing plant medicine because I was so scared of what other people would think.
mhm,
But a part of my liberation is like, no, I'm going to speak about plant medicine because I know the truth and the beauty of these plants. And regardless of what anyone else thinks of me, I know that I'm in the heart space with this. And this is something that I feel called to share and to talk about. And so I'm going to do that. And I think it's like needing to really get rid of like this need to look perfect, be perfect, perceive perfect in order to be worthy of love. I think that's such a deep wound for so many women that is just like so deeply ingrained as well. So it's like you do not need to look a certain way in order to be worthy of love. You don't need to act a
mhm,
certain way in order to be worthy of love. You are innately worthy of love just as you are. And it's like coming home, being able to validate and like love on yourself and not need those external validation so much too. I just wanted to touch on that with the generational patterns too, just to add on to what you said, because
mhm.
I think that those two, the two ones that, yeah, we both talked about are just like so deeply ingrained, I feel. Yeah.
Perfectionism kicked my ass, like, truly, like,
Yeah. It's such
it
a tough one. It does for so many of us.
so much, but it's deeply
Yeah.
tied to guilt, actually, because
Mm.
perfectionism is a fear of not doing the right thing, or receiving criticism. It's actually like this protection mechanism, because
Mhm.
God forbid we say something or show up a certain way or look a certain way that isn't appeasing another.
Mhm.
And it's deeply tied to guilt and the intrinsic wounding of guilt in the feminine from a very, very, very early point on was I did something wrong. And so the
Mhm.
perfectionism is almost like a false medicine for trying to heal that guilt of like this intrinsic I fucked up or I did something that got me in trouble or that wasn't approved or wasn't ladylike or wasn't all the things. So when you
Mhm.
think about it that way and you look at perfectionism as actually like a protection balm, and you're
Mhm.
like, "Oh my god, this has nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
This is me trying to protect myself from something." So, and we'll
Mhm.
definitely when we go deeper into the abortion episode, we'll go deeper into the guilt because those two are just they're a perfect match. But if you're struggling with perfectionism and you're listening to this, when you think about a baby that comes out and they're just this like pure being,
Mhm.
you don't like that never goes away. You don't grow
Mhm.
up as an adult and all of a sudden you're not that pure being. You're a pure being of light. And there's
Mhm.
this awe and wonder that comes when we see a child because it's new, fresh, untouched, and then we think along the way that our life experiences taint our purity. And so it's also this return to innocence. And when we think
Mhm.
about perfectionism and innocence as one, it's not perfection, and innocence is not the I'm perfect and I don't make mistakes and I'm not human and da 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 da. It's I'm whole no matter what. I'm
Mhm.
whole. So when you think about your perfectionism, think about the things that you have outcasted as imperfect and pull them back into perfection. Pull them
Mhm.
back into wholeness.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And again, I keep bringing up inner child, but I think it's so linked to these things. I think that's a huge opportunity to nurture your inner child too. Anytime you feel yourself like that perfectionism coming up, something needing to look a certain way, it's like taking that sacred pause and just doing some deep breaths and like letting yourself know like it's safe for you to speak how you feel. It's safe for you to have boundaries. It's safe for you to mess up. It's safe for you to get it wrong sometimes. Like you are, you're whole and you're worthy of love no matter what. And I think it's just such an opportunity when you feel that those perfectionism tendencies coming up. It's like just holding space for that and just really nurturing yourself through it. And reminding yourself that you're human and it's okay to make mistakes,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the inner child is such a big piece of that too, and the inner teenager too. um,
Looking to connect with like minded community on your journey of self growth, self love, and spiritual discovery? Join the Beehive, a supportive community hosted by Holly and I, designed to help you on your personal transformation and healing journey, and to help you tap into your innate wisdom with live monthly Q&A sessions, exclusive content, and a like minded community. The Beehive is the perfect space to grow and step into your most authentic self. For more information and to sign up, check the link in the show notes.
and what you said too, I love about like the gateway in is like your deepest wound. Because mine was also my body as well, like body, just like my body image. I had an eating disorder, like I said. And if you're curious too, if you're like unaware of what yours is, I feel like, which I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure in astrology, your Chiron is your deepest wound. Do you know if that's right?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because I wonder if you're like if you are unable to like pinpoint, intuitively feel what you feel is right, but if you're
Yeah.
wanting to like actually want to dive more into it, you could also look into the astrology based off of your birth chart of what your Chiron is. Because I have a really close friend who's deep into astrology and so passionate about it, and she often like tells me these things, and so Chiron is coming to mind. So if you're interested in learning more about that, maybe like look into the Chiron in your birth chart if you feel called, but also trust yourself and your intuition about like what's showing up for you too. Um, but yeah, so my last question that I want to wrap up on is just like, how can we continue to nurture and deepen this relationship with our wombs? Just any practices, any rituals that you recommend that can help women continue just like on this journey of the reconnection?
Yeah, I would say keep it really simple and spend time with your womb. That's number one. You
Hmm.
can't build a relationship without investing your time and energy. So think about your womb as that relationship and entering into it. And what I would say, because I think when we talk about healing work, sometimes we're like, fuck, like I have more healing, more to do, more womb.
Yeah.
Like think
Yeah.
about your
Daunting.
womb, like your womb is going to gift you forever. And the deeper that you go with your womb, the more gifts that you're going to open and receive and unlock and create. And so this isn't a journey where you're going to come to a stopping point. This is an infinite journey, and it's exciting because the more that you spend time with your womb, the more that opens, the more that heals, the more liberation, the more freedom, the more authenticity, the more creative expression. It's just juicy. Like it's just a garden that never stops growing things. So
Mhm.
work with the water visual, check in with the weather of your womb. I have so many womb meditations on my website that are between like 10 and 18 minutes. They're infused with light codes, which are frequencies to help recalibrate your cells. Those are great structures and containers if you need kind of walls to hold you while you're connecting with your womb. You don't need them. You can just put on your own frequencies and drop in. But if you want a container to start, I really recommend the daily womb meditation. And then I also love the blue rose meditation. But there's also a bundle with all of them in there. And then I would say too, physical care for your womb. Like when we're talking about connecting to beauty and pleasure, we want to treat our womb sensually as well. And so I love working with sacred oils to just anoint my womb with at night in the morning. Um, and being really considerate of your womb. Like when you're going out into public, and you're bleeding, for example, you're at a really sensitive psychic time in your cycle when you're bleeding. And your womb might not want to be around a bunch of people or be in a social setting. So I think on top of like, yes, ritual, hands on womb, visualizing, setting up an altar for your womb can really be really beautiful. And this does not have to be complex. It can be a piece of cloth, your favorite scarf with some
Mhm.
objects that relate to the intention that you're setting, but consider your womb as like a human. Don't like go into a practice and then never speak to her again. Like ask your womb as another practice of connecting with it. When you ask your womb questions, there are more answers. And the more that you listen and are in devotion to those answers and that wisdom, not only will you feel more in flow, more in balance physically, energetically, but you're also going to be led to so much expansion. Like, you don't just connect with the womb for no reason. You are gifted in return for your devotion and your energy, and it's an act of presence with the self, and the shadow side of that is abandonment. So when we're in self-abandonment, we're ignoring our needs, ignoring our truth. So coming back and treating your womb as like, I go here before I do anything. Before I eat something, before I say yes to a social event, I ask my womb every single time, do you want to? Sometimes she's like, fuck no. Sometimes she's like, yes. Like this lights up my soul. And
Mhm.
there are times where I don't listen. And then I see the lack of harmony, or I see the anger, I see the frustration, or I see the tiredness, whatever it is. So those are a few things. And then what I would say too is, um, this is so simple. There are no walls to this, but just put your hands on your womb. Like if there's anything
Mhm.
that you do today, just put your hands there, even as you're going to bed. Your hands are an
Mhm.
extension of your heart chakra, so you're bringing your heart into your womb. You're bringing your presence into your womb. So you don't have to think, you don't have to visualize, just put your hands there. And as an acknowledgement and honoring of I have a sacred portal inside of my body. I am the reason, you are the reason humans evolve. We are the reason
Mhm.
evolution continues. So it's
Yes.
no small thing.
It's no small thing. Oh my gosh. It's like when you really can like understand that, like how sacred our wombs are and that they are the ones that bring new life into this earth, like they're so powerful. So, yeah, I just love that so much. I feel like, yeah, I don't think we realize how healing our hands are. You know, there's Reiki, there's hands-on healing, like our hands are so powerful and healing. And I think something that I love to do is just put my hands on my womb and like sending loving energy, like with the intention of like, I just want to send in some loving energy into this space. Like I'll just lay down and do that sometimes. Um, and even doing that in the butterfly pose, like you said, like opening up the legs and just like hands on healing and just, yeah, just like sitting back, laying back, listening to frequencies. Um, yeah, I think that's so powerful and just an easy way to start like reconnecting in that sort of way. And something I feel called to share too is just like, um, there's this thing called a hip release that you can do, because specifically women, like, we store a lot of energy and trauma and tension in our hips. So even when you're in that butterfly pose and you have your hands on your womb space, it's like ever so gently bringing your legs together from that butterfly pose, bringing them together. And as you're bringing them together, they'll naturally just start shaking. Some of it's like slow, other times it can be quick. Um, and like bringing it until ever so slowly bringing them together. And when you're doing that, that's actually helping release like emotional and sexual trauma. The shaking is a part of like the healing process to like clear out some of those imprints and just like add in new space for like renewal, new energy. So that's a really easy practice. You don't have to think about why it's shaking. Your body's doing the healing for you by just shaking it itself. But that's a really powerful practice that can that can support you too. And yeah, just something I didn't touch on during the episode, which I feel called to share
Mhm.
too, is if there are experiences that are coming up around like past sexual partners, if you've had sex with a lot of people, if you've had a lot of past sexual experiences, that was a big piece of my healing, is actually sitting in that energy of all of my past sexual partners, allowing it to be there and like really loving myself through it, of like, oh my gosh, baby girl, I see where you were in that point in time. Like, you don't need to hold any shame around that. Like, I understand why you did what you did. I understand, where you were in that point in your life. Like, there's no shame here. We can sit in here. We're going to hold this space. We're going to hold this container and just allow it to move through with no judgment. And just like loving myself through having to sit through some uncomfortable memories that were surfacing, and not trying to push it away, not trying to shame myself even deeper into it, just like sitting with loving awareness and presence and just allowing it to be felt and processed, and like really holding myself in a loving way. So I just encourage you, if there's things that you've done in your past that maybe you're not proud of, or things that surface, it's like holding it with no judgment, just like really bringing that loving awareness into the space, because it's coming up for you to see for a reason. And the more you can hold it with compassion and understanding and non-judgment, the more it will, like, I feel like, just help process in a deeper way. Yeah, I just felt called to add that piece too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that we missed that you want to touch on?
I think the last, like, closing this portal with your womb has its own way. And, we talk about pathways into opening and healing and activating. And we touch mostly on healing. So maybe we'll do at some point an episode on the activating the mystery. But what I would say is you have the way. And
Hmm.
the most important key is that you listen to yourself. Even
Hmm.
amongst all of us wise women together in this collective, like, you have your own codes, you have your own blueprint, you have your own way, and trust it. Trust it so deeply, even when it doesn't make sense, when it's not linear. You can't cognize our existence. It is an absolute mystery, and that's the gift. But I think something that has really clicked in for me, especially on this path of sharing my experiences from a place of inspiring and healing. I, I can't heal anyone. You can't heal
Hmm.
anyone. We can
Hmm.
only show up in our most authentic embodied expression in the moment that we're in the journey that we're in, the part of the journey that we're in, and hold a candle. You
Hmm.
are your healer. You are the
Hmm.
one, and you can receive support, absolutely.
Okay, so Ellie's video and audio got cut out after this. So she ended on a beautiful note, and we are going to just wrap it up there. You are your own healer. Self love and compassion is the medicine. I always preach that. Trust that you are the one that has the answers for you. Of course, like she was saying at the end, you can get support from other people, but ultimately, you are the one that knows best for you. So always come back to trusting yourself, looking for the answers from within. So yes, beautiful episode. Thank you so much, Ellie, for your time, for your energy, for your light, for your wisdom. I hope you all took something away from this episode. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Ellie and I are going to be doing a part 2. So we're going to be really diving into reconnecting to the womb, specifically after having an abortion. So if you feel called, stay tuned for that episode in the coming months, because we both feel very passionate about that topic and want to support other women that are moving through abortions, how to reconnect with the womb, free themselves from any shame that you may be carrying. Yeah, it just feels really important, especially in the day and time, the times that we're in right now. Yeah, we will be doing that in the coming months. So look out for that one. And I will have all of Ellie's information in the show notes if you feel called to look more into her. And with that, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.